Thank you very much, Scoundrel. It's Medi.
It's Vedi!
And it's a swan dive. We got it in, Vedius.
We got the swan dive
got it in.
as we promised, ladies and
Didn't
gentlemen.
even need Papa Smithy to help us.
We
Do weigh a lot more now, though. I'm just saying.
Wow, what are you trying to say?
You bulked up.
Thanks.
You're getting buff, man.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Well, we're here for Splyce versus XL. First game of the day. It's going to be a very exciting one, I'm sure. Splyce, if they win, clinch that second spot. Well, they hold it for themselves. They're not actually locked into it, but they will have second spot all for themselves until Fnatic play later today.
And I mean, if you think about it, with G2 already locking in a playoff spot, if you can get 10 wins, close to 11 wins historically, that's been a pretty safe benchmark for securing a playoff spot. So with a win from Splyce today, you're looking very confident over the next few weeks, whereas XL, they need these wins because their schedule does not get any easier as we move forward throughout the rest of the season.
Only gets harder. Look at the next few games. Fnatic, Origin, G2 in their next 5. It's going to be very difficult for them to make that run into playoffs, but coming off the back of their first ever 2-0 week as an organization, I'm sure they'll take a lot of momentum into this
and
game.
a lot of that goes towards Kadrill's performance. This guy has only been getting better week after week. The analyst desk already spoke about it, but it feels like when he plays around the top side of the map, when he enables Expect to get those roams off, and he himself is able to have big impacts in the team fights, I feel like that XL can find these big wins. And it's so great to see the growth that Kadrill's made, because you think about his story as a player, and he was a mid laner for H2K, he swapped to jungle, everyone was like, why?
Yes, I remember those days.
And now he's at a point where I feel like he's a jungler that you can rely on to be there whenever you need him. If Expect needs help, he's there. If the bot lane needs help, he's there. He's a very reliable jungler that can cover you whenever you need him. So I'm excited to see what he can do up against the likes of Xerxes, who's definitely one of our big brain junglers we have in the league.
And I think that's the concern for XL coming into this game. Xerxes has often shown us how well he can read enemy junglers, how well he plays the early game. Has been the key catalyst for Splyce in those early games a lot of the time. And as we jump into picks and bans, I want to remind people, it's not just a win on the cards today. The unofficial World Championship belt is on the line between these teams. It's been tracked since Fnatic won the first World Championship all the way back in 2011. And now it sits in XL's hands as they beat Misfits last week. We'll see if Splyce can take it away today.
Nice. Azir and Corki banned off the table, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to see some interesting mid laners today. Meanwhile, Sejuani also going to be taken off the board from the side of Splyce. Akali actually going to be taken out of Humanoid's hands. Fair enough. That makes sense considering two of his big pop-off games this split have been off the back of that champion. I now wonder if XL will save that last ban for the Qiyana, because we know that Splyce can flex it into both mid and jungle, and it's something that they often like to prioritize.
We'll see where Splyce go with their final ban. They'll take Yuumi off the cards, incredibly strong support. Karma still available as well. We'll see if that is picked up throughout this pick and ban phase, because XL now have a pretty tough decision to make, as you say. The Qiyana is an option, but you could take away one of those power picks like the Aatrox or the Karma.
Well, we have to take into consideration as well how much value does Splyce put on the likes of things like Tahm Kench. Last week they ran the Jhin Tahm Kench down towards the bot lane. It's something that Norscarin is very comfortable on. I was also thinking about the Rakan ban, but they've actually decided to take the other half of the Lovers duo to try and lower priority on it. And as you said, the Karma, it looks like going to be the focus for Splyce. And of course, this can be flexed into multiple roles. So we'll see what Splyce look to do with it, as they have a lot of freedom with this first pick.
It's actually the first time we've seen, oh no, we have had one Chachi game playing the Karma. They won that. Haven't seen it in any other role on the Splyce lineup. Expect currently hovering over one of his stronger picks in the form of the Jace. But instead, it looks like they'll go towards Neeko in that top lane, or, of course, in the mid lane as a possibility.
Now, the thing about Neeko is she did receive some recent nerfs, and since then it feels like teams have put less of a priority on her, but I feel she's still very strong, both AD and AP. Faker is still a massive fan of her in the mid lane, predominantly on the AP side, as an answer to things like the Azir, and I do wonder where XL will take it. We have seen Mickey play it in the mid lane a few times, as Splyce have already looked to answer.
Yeah, getting the Qiyana for Humanoid makes a lot of sense on the side of Splyce. Could go into the jungle, of course. We've seen Xerxes play it once before this split, and with the Nautilus alongside it, you have some CC to team up with wherever you take that mid lane assassin.
This does suggest, though, that the Nautilus will be going down towards the bot lane. Qiyana and Karma will be can be flexed into multiple different positions that we've already talked a lot about. And right now, XL focusing on their last pick is actually going to be the Tahm Kench as an answer to the Nautilus. Bit of a surprise, but I guess that they wanted to pick something safe. This does give Jessica the option to go for the Ashe later, so I wouldn't actually be surprised to see Splyce ban that one away.
Well, we've talked a lot about both these teams focusing on their junglers, getting their junglers, facilitating their junglers to have a strong early game. So far, I see a Jarvan on the side of XL who can have a very strong early game, yet to see Splyce pick that jungler to really allow Xerxes to pop off.
Well, again, we're still kind of assuming for now that the Qiyana's in the jungle.
Okay.
Because I feel that while there's been a big discussion around is it better mid or jungle, in my opinion, if you're looking for something aggressive in the early game, then Qiyana is one of the best picks to enable it. You do like a very quick clear, like your first clear is pretty slow, but you can come out of it relatively healthy, and once you're level 3, you can immediately look for a gank. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it placed in the jungle. Right now, a lot of the target bans are going towards the bot lane. Notice how XL are even banning AD carries out themselves because they realize they have first pick.
Yep.
They're the ones that get to prioritize their AD carry champion, and they're like, you know what? We're going to take away some of your comp picks, we're going to take away some of the strong things that work well with your comp, and that means that we can just first pick ourselves an Ashe.
The Ashe is exactly what I was going to say, Vedius. Great pick up on that. They've used that Ashe Kensham lane so often in the past. It's worked out well for them, finding those long-range picks. Splyce will remove the Tristana and the Aatrox as their final 2 bans, and now we expect XL to go towards that AD carry, most probably the Ashe.
Well, I expect to go into the top lane, haha. But you're right, Ashe is kind of what I'm looking for in the bot lane right now. They could go for a more defensive option if they're worried about the Nautilus Jhin duo coming out from the side of Splyce. There is always the possibility that the Karma could go down bot, take a reckless approach to the matchup, but I'd be very surprised if that was the case. I am a little disappointed to not see the Ashe. I do think that with this comp, it would actually synergize very well. It would give them good pick power, and it would give them that extra bit of wave clear, but clearly they're going for the more defensive option. They'd have a much stronger mid-game spike, but it does give Splyce the freedom to go for a little bit more of a scaling option themselves. So they do have early game power with the Qiyana, along with having a scaling option in the form of the Sivir.
And such strong disengaging team fights and chase potential with that Karma. The Mantrid inspired alongside the On the Hunt coming out from the Sivir gives you that ability to run down your opponents. Now, the Sylas last pick doesn't actually give us too much more information. We've seen both Sylas mid and Sylas jungle.
I think that it is Sylas mid.
Shush guys, it's not going to be Bard, okay? As much as we want it to be Bard, it's not going to be Bard. It's not going to be team. Okay.
The crowd's into it, Medic. They're bought in, they're excited, they're hyped, but unfortunately XL is just playing with their hearts, and it's going to be Expects. Why are you upset about this? Aurelia is a great champion. I love seeing Expect on the Aurelia. I think it's one of his best champions. I think that he performs extremely well on it, and I think it gives Kadriel a very clear lane to play around as well. If you've got an Ezreal Tahm Kench, you don't want to invest resources into that lane. You just want to try and get Expect ahead as early as possible. I think he had a great performance on it last week. I'm hoping that they do make the swap, because I think that it's better overall, but we'll have to wait and see. Maybe they want to avoid the Karma matchup up towards the top lane. Maybe that they think the Neeko will do much better into that, which makes a lot of sense, and instead they would rather have the Aurelia into the Sylas, and it looks like that is what's going to be the case.
That's what we're going to have. Aurelia mid, Neeko top for XL, Sylas mid, and jungle Qiyana for the side of Splyce. We have seen Xerxes play the Qiyana once already, went 4-1-7 in a victory for Splyce. We'll see if he can replicate that for them today.
Well, I am a little sad. I do love seeing Expect on that Aurelia. I think he's a very talented one, but it will be in Mickey's hands today. Expect's going to go in a little bit of a slower matchup. I feel like today is going to be a lot about mid-jungle, Medic. I feel like that with Kadriel on this Jarvan, Mickey on the Aurelia, with the Qiyana on the side of Splyce, we should be seeing a lot of early jungle action, and I'm expecting it to be around this mid lane place.
But Expect's in the top lane, Vedius. You
yes,
told me that already. Mid jungle is the place we're going to have our eyes on early on. XL trying to extend their winning streak. 2-0 so far. First undefeated weekend for the organization in LEC history. We'll see if they can keep their winning ways going, or if Splyce will be the stopping block for this XL lineup. A decisive game and a decisive weekend for these teams, you have to feel. Splyce looking to cement themselves as the second best team in Europe. A couple of wins will definitely do that. XL looking to show they're not done yet. They're not dead and buried. They're not out of this playoff race. And a win today would I think change a lot of people's minds about this organization.
Well, there's some people in the crowd that already believe XL is great. Nice to hear some XL support today. Very, very vocal crowd. Meanwhile, let's see what Splyce can bring to the table, because we will be seeing the Qiyana jungle once again. Typically, early pathing from a Qiyana jungle looks very much like you clear one side of the map, then you can either look for an early base or you can look for an early gank. Right now, he is starting on the red buff, so his options are to do red into Raptors into Krugs, and then he can maybe look for a bot lane gank, maybe he looks for a mid lane gank, or maybe he looks for a base. Alternatively, he could look to try and secure all of his neutral objectives, but then it slows his clear down. So I think it's much safer for champions that have weaker clear speed and overall weaker early levels to just try and do this full clear around one side of the map.
Well, we'll keep our eyes on Xerxes as he does go through his jungle pathing, but the other people we have to make the audience aware of and keep our awareness on towards, eyes on is probably the sentence I was going for, has to be Kadriel and Expect. They team up so often for this XL lineup, and they are really the way that XL wins games. This is their stats in wins. You can see both of them have very high kill participation. They have high kills and assists at the 15-minute mark, and they're where XL get most of their gold lead when they're winning.
And typically, Expect has showcased over this split that he knows what to do with the lead, and he knows how to pressure, and something that Ender brought up earlier on was that he likes to roam a lot. So once he has an advantage, he brings it out onto the rest of the map as well. And this is something that a lot of top laners don't do, but it can be very valuable, because a lot of the meta right now revolves around just moving a lot, and primarily moving around mid so you can secure that mid tower as quickly as possible. And this is a trait and a value that I think makes Expect very strong as a top laner, and when you have an early game jungler like Kadriel, it only makes sense to try and facilitate that kind of playstyle. So when they are able to work together, I think it showcased last week what they are capable of, rather.
Yeah, we currently see Kadriel using the fact that Mickey has the push in mid to go in towards Xerxes' jungle. Mickey trading with Humanoid, but Kadriel is around this blue buff, and Xerxes has yet to start it up. Not sure if he's been spotted as of yet. Xerxes just going to step around and the flag comes down, and now that Qiyana will be aware something's going on. Shape Splitter was used in the top lane as the fight begins. Nico caught out just a little bit here. Expect chased down by Vizicachi. Xerxes on his way.
Gonna try and kill him.
Looking for the stun. Will land the root and he gets the kill. Edge of Ishtar finds its mark and Xerxes comes out 1-0.
The thing is, the moment you land that EQ combo, the Q does not miss. Expect needed to flash sooner. It allowed Xerxes to land the root, land the reset of the Q, and find that execute. Beautiful early start. A bit of disrespect coming out from the side of Expect, and the laner that we like to see get ahead from the side of XL is immediately put behind by Xerxes.
He's going to struggle in this lane now. No flash, no teleport. Chachi able to keep both of his summoners up. Xerxes didn't even have to burn a flash of his own. You can see Kadriel immediately says, okay, well, I'm going to look around this mid instead, see if Mickey can help me out on this invade. He's going to push in towards this blue buff. Xerxes yet to do it. He's yet to get back to base either. And Kadriel's just trying to go in. Smite comes down. Xerxes is going to take a little bit of a trade, but Humanoid is the first to react from mid, and so Kadriel won't be able to stay around too much longer. The ward comes down, and Kadriel, you have to feel, wants to back away from this one. It feels a little bit greedy to stay around any further.
Well, if nothing else, he's generated a lot of pressure, which has forced Humanoid to back off and has allowed Mickey the time to base and actually get back into lane without giving Humanoid the opportunity to bounce back. This gives Mickey a good setup initially on the lane, and you can see how great or how much better this matchup is for the Aurelia now that the shield is only a magic damage shield on the side of Sylas, which is allowing Mickey to build up a massive early CS advantage. So playing this matchup extremely well for the time being, and it feels like overall, XL, they're generating a lot of pressure both in top lane and in the mid lane.
That has been the story of XL over the last few weeks. Meanwhile, in the bottom side, pretty much honors even between these two laners. Not really too much to be expected from a Sivir Nautilus into Tahm Kench Ezreal lane. Don't really think there's going to be too much action down there unless the junglers decide to make their way towards the bottom side of the map.
So look at all these pings on the minimap right now. Splyce are clearly setting up for a player on the bot side of the map, and it's important that they gain control over the river. Hook does land.
Yeah, Mystique's a little bit greedy here. The hook's going to land. He has to flash the wall, and Splyce will be happy enough just getting the flash out. Mickey's trading in the mid lane, not yet level 6, so doesn't have the Vanguard's edge, but can continue just to harass down Humanoid.
Greed is a good word for it, Medic, because Splyce were in a position where they had priority over the river, and they couldn't quite set up a collapse onto Kobbe and Norscarin, which meant that Mystique's trying to make that play happen. It was a very easy option for Splyce to basically just turn and attack the weak flank. So they end up forcing his flash out. The bright side for XL is they are able to secure the Scuttle Crab, which means that they get to maintain equal vision control around the bot river. So an early Drake from the side of Splyce is a much harder to set up for now. So there is a bright side, even though there was an over-aggressive play from Mystiques.
we'll see if XL can use the fact they know Splyce are more likely to play around that bottom side to do something up towards the top side of the map. Rift Herald does spawn, you know, at 10-minute mark or so, but it's a little bit far away. Maybe a little bit of ideation from me there. Honors even, 6 minutes in, both teams just battling back and forth, and I think what we've expected to see is this top side of the map going in favor of XL. You can see CS lead in the mid lane, a little bit of a lead in top. Expect almost got his flash back up, and the bot side of the map has just been pretty even between the two teams.
I mean, in terms of how this game flows, I think both sides have pretty solid scaling, right? Ooh, Mickey right now could be in some danger.
Oh, double stun's gonna land with a flawless duet. Jumping around, misses the Vanguard Jet. Humanoid's actually in now. Mickey's got his own, but there's no mana on him. He's gonna flash forward to try and take down Xerxes. He'll get the kill. He'll get taken down in return, and it's a 1-for-1 trade.
Ends up being a mispositioning play there from Mickey, but he ends up getting a 1-for-1 overall. That ultimate from Aurelia caught me off guard, given that it came out from Humanoid, but then Mickey was able to land his own, and that set up for the play onto Xerxes. And the thing about Qiyana, very squishy early on into the game, and Aurelia, one of the best duelists, especially if she can stack up her passive. So you can see here, she doesn't have pressure anywhere on the map, which means Aurelia in this situation very easily able to get collapsed upon. But due to a couple of missed skill shots, they can't actually commit. They think that with Mickey having no mana, he can't force this play, but he's like, you know what, screw it, I'm going for this play. He could have just disengaged. He could have just backed out, but he wanted the kill. He wanted to try and send a message to Xerxes, and I think he does it just perfectly. Was it worth it? Debatable. Because now you can see the CS gap was closed between Humanoid and Mickey. Still favorable towards Mickey, but Humanoid was able to close that gap just a little bit. But still, you get a kill onto that Aurelia, you get more gold into her back pocket, and now she has the completed Tiamat for extra wave clear, which makes it even easier for her to gain priority in that lane.
And that's the thing we'll have to track. Was that kill worth it? Was the 600 gold lead that we have on Mickey over Humanoid in that mid lane enough to impact this game? Because otherwise, he's burnt his flash, he's mispositioned, got caught out, had the opportunity to get away, and decided, no, I'm going to try and take the kill instead. Humanoid still has his flash. We'll see if that comes back to bite Mickey in the next 5 minutes or so.
Looking at what teleports are available right now, none are up, but Expects will be up first. So if we were to see any kind of cross-map play, you'd expect it to come out from XL. Maybe once that TP is up, they can look for a Drake play towards the bot side of the map if they wanted to. But notice how Kadril, once he resets off the map, will be going towards his red buff. And right now, his top side is getting pushed in, and this is going to force Vizicsacsi to overextend. This means that Kadril could look for a gank up towards the top side of the map. There is a flash available on Chachi, so at the very least they can try and burn that summoner spell. Or he could look to just try and assist his mid lane, or allow Mickey to continue this push and potentially look for a rook.
Cersei will be trying to work out how to answer Kadril wherever he is on the map, just clearing his bottom side jungle. His Gromp is available for him if he wants it, and that is where he's going to path right now. Has Caulfield's Warhammer and the completed Stalker's Blade. And now they're both going to meet in the river. Kadril won't know that Xerxes spotted him out. He's standing on a ward now. Could just be looking for a counter gank here. The flawless duet doesn't land. Humanoid able to dodge away. And here comes Xerxes. Abscon's gonna land. Here's Expect coming down from the top side though, and maybe Humanoid's overstepped. There's the flash away. Able to escape to live another day.
Surprised that Humanoid tried to go for that, but notice on the minimap, Expect doing what he often does, made that roam down. Yes, he loses a wave, and he'll lose a bit of gold and experience, but he's there to support his team, and it could have converted into a kill, and maybe some turret plates onto that mid lane tower. So, great example of what Expect often likes to do, and honestly, a bit of an overstep there from Humanoid, trying to force that fight, as Humanoid now goes in onto Mickey.
Remember, there's no flash on the Aurelia. He's going to try and dodge around here as Mystiques is in range. Look for the Devour, gets it out just in time, but he expects Mickey back out. Mickey gets a kill, now Teleport's coming out, and XL have turned this one around. Xerxes trying to trade in. It's two! It's two for XL!
And XL find the outplay. Mickey, exquisite performance from his Aurelia. Huge credits to Mystiques as well, arriving at just the right time to keep his mid laner alive. Beautifully done from this XL squad.
I was my heart was in my mouth for a second there, Vedius. Mystiques had flash, didn't do it, just held on to the Devour for as long as possible. But this play from Mickey in this Alienware replay was insane.
So notice here how Xerxes uses the ultimate, but he does not find that stun onto Mickey. It goes around the outside of the terrain, doesn't land that CC. Mystique gets his notice how Mickey gets spit out and goes to the all-in rather than tries to escape. He then gets a bit of health back from both the Corrupting Potion and the Rune that I forget the name of, that gives you health back once you get a kill.
I know the one you mean, but I can't remember it either.
The crowd is trying to help us, but
Yeah,
we can't hear them
them.
through our headset.
Triumph!
Triumph!
I knew that. That wasn't the crowd. That was me.
We knew what it did. We forget the name. But honestly, extremely well played by Mickey. That was like a perfect example of knowing your limits and being able to find that outplay. Really good stuff and very much needed for XL in this early game.
And when the play was starting off, I was like, oh, Mickey's going to pay for not having his flash from that earlier play, but he was able to outplay Splyce. Now XL have 1,000 gold lead. Mickey has a 30 CS lead in the mid lane, and XL, their early game, once again, is coming to fruition.
I mean, it is costing Expect a little bit because Kent just keeps trying to roam down to try and support his team. But in the end, it's benefiting XL overall. Mickey is in now such a good spot. He can threaten inside lanes. Their team fighting is going to be very solid once they get a couple of major items completed. And yeah, XL is in a great position right now. Xerxes has not been able to find the same early lead that he found on the Qiyana last time round. He is not hyper-fed, but he's still looking for plays.
Teleport coming in here by Splyce. They're looking for the fight as Vizicachi's going to join the fray. Jessica trying to get away. Mystique's down towards the bottom side. K-Drill uses the EQ, but Splyce really can't collapse too easily on this. Mystique still has the flash. He's going to use it across the wall. Dodges out from the abscond. Splyce will turn back towards the dragon.
And that TP usage immediately gives Splyce priority over the Drake. I love that setup because they already knew that Expect TP'd up towards the top sides. Vizicachi had a TP advantage, and they could set up a flank. By securing this dragon, they get a bit of control back over the map, and now they're in a great position.
Does give Expect just that little bit of time in the top lane, takes a plate, gets some gold back in his pockets after roaming around a lot. He had fallen behind, and he's going to be in a little bit better shape for now. Abyssal Voyage used towards the mid lane as Humanoid. Going to try and dodge away from Cage, manages it. Chachi coming in from the side, and Splyce might want to continue taking this fight. Xerxes nowhere near it though, and so it would be a 3v2, and Splyce decides to back away.
So right now, as we approach the mid game, these plates are going to start to fall off. Expect is going to be able to pick up some of the gold that he's been losing in the early plays. Yes, it did result in a Drake going over in favor of Splyce, but XL have actually been able to extend the gold lead just a little bit more. You can already see that there's a huge gold advantage in the back pocket of Mickey, thanks to those 2 kills that he did pick up and the 40 CS lead. But even though Expect is about a wave down, he's actually been able to equalize the gold thanks to those plates that he can pick up. And the bot lane, the safe style that they decided to go for, has been working out very nicely for them. They've been farming very well, and overall XL have played a pretty flawless early game. Outside of the one death that we saw from Expect up towards the top side of the map and a couple of oversteps that we've seen from Mystiques, XL have been very clean, and now they're trying to maximize these plates as they secure mid-town.
Take all 5 in the mid lane just before that timer runs out. 14 minutes, plates fall. It's 13-14, so XL will use that referral to get a 2,000 gold lead. Probably has a little bit of time down towards the bottom lane to get a plate of his own, but it's not going to answer back too much. And there's been such a transformation in XL over the last few weeks of this split. Because at the start of the split, they were one of the worst teams in the league. Root's going to land here, on towards Expect. Should be able to get away from Chachi.
I mean, Karma doesn't really have kill pressure.
You say, I mean, Chachi's positioning it as if he has kill pressure right there.
I mean, like, he could threaten, but one of the things, it's the same principle behind a Shen, right? Like, he only does so much damage, he needs a full combo to really kill you. Speaking of...
Awesome! Oh! Kill pressure comes out. Chachi will go down in response.
Alright, that doesn't count.
I'm pretty sure it does.
Expect ran into Chachi, hoping that he would get the shield off of his ultimate.
Did Chachi kill Expect in a 1v1?
So
he had pressure to kill him.
Alright, Medic. Alright. Technically, he had kill pressure if Expect made a mistake. I'll give you that one. But XL traded 1-for-1. I don't know if that was really worth it, to be honest. We're going to get a quick replay. Let's have a look at it. So Expect sees that his jungler's coming, but Vizicachi knows his jungler is here. And so what he wants is the shield from his ultimate, and he doesn't get it, because you have to be in the air to get that shield.
See, I anticipated the bad flash into Root, yeah.
And Vizicachi is able to get that kill. So it ends up being a 1-for-1 overall. Now we're kind of looking at what are the options the teams have on the map. Because Mickey found that early first tower mid, he's given the freedom to get pushed all the time and can start roaming around the map. But of course, due to some good vision from coming out from the side of Splyce, they have good awareness of when Mickey is trying to look for roams. But they have caught Mystiques, he has no flash.
And once again, it's Mystiques getting caught out. The Root will land here. Xerxes exhausted up. Cobby's on his way as well. Cage's coming down. Mickey's about to join the fight. Jessica jumps forward into Cobby. Might have been a little bit too eager there. Has to flash away. and Splyce will win out in the bottom lane.
So quite a few times now we've seen some mispositionings from this bot lane from XL. Mystique's being the main culprit as he's constantly trying to get vision when he doesn't have pressure, and Xerxes just been sitting there lying in wait looking to try and punish him, and they need to shore up these mistakes because we've seen multiple times XL as a team get these early leads but then make that crucial mid-game mistake that ultimately costs them the game. Maybe they don't fully utilize their pressure, maybe they don't threaten multiple sides, they just group up as a 5-man. Maybe they try to force a fight that they can't actually win. And these kind of positioning errors, if they keep making them, Splyce is not the kind of team that will just allow you to get away with it. So XL need to make sure that each member is cleaning up their playstyle if they want to try and find this win and then move forward towards play.
Totally agree with you there, Vedius. I do want to have a look at it from Splyce's perspective, though, because since Rift Rivals, they have been a very strong early game team. They've tended to take large advantages before the 15-minute mark, usually about 2,000 gold ahead. This game, they're 2,000 gold behind. Usually they're getting a lot of kills early on, dying less. But recently, well, in this game specifically, they seem to have struggled a little bit against XL, and Splyce's mid-game has never been their forte.
No, it has not, so we'll see how well XL can punish it, because a lot of this early game advantage often comes off the back of Xerxes and how he plays around Humanoid. And now they're looking for a play, but Mickey and Kadril are here to answer. And again, we see Xerxes has not been able to find that same level of impact on his Qiyana. He can't find those ganks, he can't find those snowballs, and while he has tried to play around mid, ultimately it's not resulted in success, and Mickey has been the one finding a lot of great outplay. So props to Mickey. You can see how much value she's bringing on this Aurelia. Trinity Force now completed. XL can start looking for fights if they want to. They've hit a lot of big item spikes, and they're in a very powerful position right now.
They definitely are. Chachi's still pushing in, expecting the top lane. We anticipate this tower going down pretty soon. Expect really can't do too much against Chachi's wave pressure. You can see Jessica and Mystique's move towards mid lane for the moment by XL.
So keep your eyes on the teleports right now. Vizichachis is just about to come out. Cobbies is unavailable, but Mickey is on his way down. And because Expector's just backed, he's in a position where he can look to teleport and support the rest of his team as well. Because XL have mid pushed in, they know roughly where many of the members of Splyce are. So the likelihood is this Drake won't be contested, and they'll be able to walk this one away for free. So great setup there from XL. Now they need to regain control back over the map. So they'll look to push out mid, they'll look to control top, and they'll look to try and attack Humanoid, who right now is pushing out this bot wave.
It's gone a little bit too deep here as Mickey and Kadril on their way. EQ combo doesn't quite connect, but there's the Cataclysm. Humanoid's got its flash back up, the Vanguard's edge won't land, and XL will get the summoner out of Humanoid. Mystique's coming down towards this bottom lane. Splyce want to take a little bit of a fight. They're not willing to give up this tower too easily. Jesper had to jump across the wall as Norscaring was chasing him down, but Humanoid able to clear out the wave in time. For the moment, Splyce will just group up and defend. Mickey in the side lane is definitely where XL want to be focusing. Once again, Mystique's just stayed around just a little bit too long. Has to flash, and it keeps being the same error here from the bottom laner, from the support for XL.
The bright side is that it's not resulting in deaths for Mystiques, but you're right, like, it's a very clear problem that multiple times we've been seeing Mystiques face check a brush, sticking around too long, and ultimately getting punished. And the problem for Splyce is that they aren't able to convert it into much. However, if this keeps recurring throughout this game, it could be something that Splyce look to try and snowball and leverage off of. So we're now kind of in this mid-game state. A lot of the towers have dropped. XL is obviously in a much better position because they have a 2-to-1 tower advantage, and this means that it's much easier for them to gain priority. So they're looking to now start splitting up the map. What we'll probably start seeing from XL is actually more of a kind of 0-4-1 setup. And by that I mean they'll have 0 people in the top lane, they'll have 4 people in the mid lane, and they'll have 1 person in the bot lane. In order to do, the reason why you do that is because your Mickey is your strong point. Mickey is the player that you ultimately want to try and enable, and this means that if you have pressure mid as your 4, you can rotate either towards him, you can send a couple players towards him, or you can just leave him in his 1v1 where he's expected to win. So ultimately the whole game plan for XL should be right now to just enable Mickey as much as possible.
Well, we'll see if they're able to do that. Mickey's looking up towards that second item. Already has the Trinity Force. Humanoid only sitting on a Proto Belt for himself. You've got the GLP and the Twin Shadows complete on Vizichachi. It tends to be the core of a Karma build these days. Sometimes you see an Athene's Unholy Grail or something thrown in there for a little bit more supportive stats. And once again, XL, 0-4-1, bringing people down towards this bottom lane, trying to help out Mickey, who's used the Flawless Duet, and will get hit by the inner flame coming out from Chachi. Kadril on his way, but Chachi still has the flash and the Inspire to escape to live another day. XL, you can see the focus they have down towards this bottom side, trying to open up the map by taking that final outer tower.
Yeah, so it's very much as we described. Notice how Expect has pushed in mid lane, the rest of the team is moving down bot lane. It's very much just like, hey Mickey, we're here for you, we'll protect you, we'll take care of you, you just keep doing your thing. And what Splyce is looking for is, in an ideal world, they want to kill Mickey.
Yep.
Because if they kill him, then XL can't push forward, they can't look to make plays, and Splyce can just buy more time, they can look to scale up. Humanoid on the Silas will get to a point where he offers a lot more value in team fights, even though Xerxes is very much based on an early game jungler with the Qiyana. I believe she still scales pretty well, you know? There's a lot of squishy members on the enemy team. If you think about how much armor there actually is on the side of XL, it's only the Jarvan, which means you have a huge amount of burst and team fight power with the likes of your ultimate. So I do feel like Splyce, if they can keep the game stalled, they're in a great spot, especially, I didn't even mention the Sivir. So XL, they kind of need to keep the pressure on right now.
Yep. Keep them under the cosh as much as possible. Still a 2,000 gold lead for XL at the 21-minute mark. Do you want to bring attention, as you say, to Kobbe, who's built himself up a 900 gold lead, almost 1,000 gold lead over Jeskla, has hit those two items with the Essence Reaver and the Rapid Fire Cannon. Kedra looking to catch out Humanoid, but can't actually connect with anything. Didn't want to use the Cataclysm when Humanoid still had the Abscond. And now XL say, okay, we've opened up bottom side of the map. You have to try and counter push that, and we're going to play up towards the Baron instead.
Now again, I want to draw people's attention to the minimap, and notice how XL have set up so much vision control around the Baron. They wanted to threaten a sneak or maybe look for a pick, but it's immediately going to get spotted out, and now they're committing. And this could be very dangerous for XL, as we see the teleport in from his Itachi.
Make or break. Supreme Despair Town will land one stun. You can see on the front line, Northgaren is caught out. Trishon Barrage coming out. Kedra trying to jump onto the back line. Expect goes in. Jessica takes down Northgaren on the back line, though. Humanoid has caught out Jessica. The kill's coming in for XL as Mickey pops off. A double comes out, and it's one more on top. XL clean up Splyce around the Baron.
The turn and burn from XL was beautiful. We said they needed to force a play. They knew that they could take a fight right now, and they execute upon it beautifully. XL are challenging our top team in Europe right now, and they are showing Europe that they can still make that run for playoff.
And it's so often we've seen, you know, teams like Splyce, like Schalke, mess up on Pyroman players like that. That was clean from XL.
So notice how Mickey does get stunned up initially by the Qiyana ultimate, but everyone else doesn't. The clear call from XL is turn. Humanoid has not set up a good flank, and he's not really threatening anyone, which means this initial fight is a 5v4. Then he goes onto the backline. He can't find the kill onto Mystiques, onto Jessica rather, because Mystiques is there to support him. Meanwhile, Mickey is just ripping through the backline because Kadril and Expect have already brought their CC and done all the setup to allow Mickey to carry.
And with Mickey basically being an AD assassin right now, yes, Aurelia's a bruiser, but the amount of damage he has makes him into an assassin champion. Against so many squishy members, it's very easy for him to shred through that backline. You're looking at a Karma, you're looking at a Sivir. If you get rid of a Nautilus, no one else on Splyce can really stand up against Mickey.
I'm just so impressed with how XL are playing this game right now. Mickey had a fantastic early game, and it wasn't actually a matter of Kadril playing around him. He was just outplaying his opponents. He played that beautifully. The mid lane gank that was set up by Splyce. Ooh, speaking of plays.
Abyssal Voyage comes out. Xerxes will stun up Expect and Mystiques against the wall, but XL just using this to get vision and pressure down towards this bottom lane. And Xerxes and Chachi are going to try and defend. Mickey not really able to step up too close to the tower. They'll wait for Expect to back away, and then he will go out and push out top. It's a 1-3-1 with Mystiques and Kadril roaming throughout the jungle, and Mickey playing down towards that bottom side. Xerxes trying to answer the unstoppable force that is this Aurelia.
So Expect is likely just going top to catch the wave, and the moment it's cleared out, he'll look to try and group up with the rest of his team, because again, XL want to try and stay as close to each other as possible. They're so much stronger in this group scenario that the further apart they are, the greater the risk of them getting picked off. So what you'll likely see Expect do is maybe even look for a teleport soon with this Baron buff. It's very easy for them to break into the base and start threatening the Nexus of Splyce.
And something XL have done well in the last few weeks is using the Baron buff to its ultimate potential. Already taken 2 towers off it, now they're going down towards the bottom side. Teleport's going to come in, using that TP to keep the minions alive. Kadril trying to step forward, be that front line for the team. Mickey still there. Nico gobbled up, spat out to the back of the team, and Splyce able to disengage for the moment. Humanoid still in the way the Vanguard's edge, and XL do not have a wave to play with. The back will come from Mickey, but he can teleport back in, now has a GA to resurrect him if the fight goes awry.
feel like XL playing exactly how we expect of them right now. And again, like, look, they don't care about the top wave. Excuse me. They're entirely playing around both bot and mid to try and break into the base.
Just want to take down one of these inhibitor towers. Mickey on the front line, Gavin going in onto Mystiques, but the Slick Scheme will come out. Mickey jumping in, look at Selassie, who's almost down. Mickey lands the Vanguard's edge, but he's just trying to take down the jungler. Can't quite get there in time. The rest of XL have to come in and help out. Their mid laner, the GA comes out, Mystiques spat out, but he couldn't come back from the GA. Jessica will get a triple kill on the Ezreal as Mickey was just distracting all of Splyce throughout the fight. The tower not quite down yet, but as soon as the wave arrives, XL will break open the base of Splyce. And 25 minutes in, XL have almost an 8,000 gold lead over the second team here in the LEC. They look dominant.
They do. That dive was a little haphazard, though. I feel like that they didn't need to force the play. I feel like they got Lovriga. Fortunately, because of the gold advantage that they do have, they were able to get away with it. But just look at how hard they commit to this play. So, the engage comes in initially from North Garen, and then Kadro immediately dives onto the backline. Absolutely no one could follow him because of the positioning of North Garen, and now Mickey is basically left isolated. Because he's level 16 on an Aurelia with GA, he's effectively able to 1 versus 4, which is why they're able to get away with this dive. But this could have been very dangerous for them. So I would have liked to have seen XL play the slightly slower game, but in the end, they do still get the inhibitor. They still do walk away happy, and now they have the last 2 lanes that they can look to play through.
I totally agree with your analysis of the situation, but if I'm in XL's head right now, I'm saying, played good early game, our mid game has been strong, let's not let Splyce get to the late game. Let's close this game out as soon as possible, have a Baron wave pushing in, let's try and end the game here and now. And that makes sense to me, because we asked, can they play through the mid game?
But the dangers that you always have to be careful of is if you mess up a play like that, that is how Splyce come back in. Which is why I'm always evaluating XL and looking like how patiently are they playing, and they're taking their time. And they've done so many things well this game. I would hate to see them throw that away because they're being overzealous or greedy. And right now their setup is good. Notice how the bot wave is slowly pushing in with the super minions. They've already started the push up top, and now they're threatening the top tier 2. All they're doing is buying time and waiting for the Baron to respawn. They know they have full control over the topside jungle. The inhibitor furthest away from the Baron is the one that's threatening the base of Splyce, and so they're in a prime position pretty much to control the entire game right now. Everything is in XL's hands.
Definitely is. XL, the current holders of the unofficial World Championship belt as well. In case you don't know what that is, Fnatic won it when they won the first ever World Champion, and then whoever beat them took it away. Mystiques will gobble up Kadron. Whoever beat Fnatic would take it away, and it just got passed down and passed down. Eventually, G2 won it off SKT at MSI, and now XL hold it after beating Misfits last week. I'm sure Splyce would have wanted to get their hands on it, but it doesn't look like today is their day, as XL will hold on to it for a game longer. Yeah, Mickey tanking up the tower, that was bad. I agree with you there.
He's a level 17 Aurelia, and he's very happy right now. 4-1-4. He's had an excellent game. A lot of props to him. But like, I honestly feel that the whole team from XL has they just played very well as a team. If I'm going to throw criticism at anyone, it is Mystique's the amount of time that he got caught out, but how can I criticize him when he wasn't dying, right?
Because he did have to burn his flash. He was burning summoners for it.
So right now, Splyce are looking to try and challenge the Baron. This is the best case scenario for them, and they're just kind of clumping up and grouping to force their way into the river so they can gain some vision and try and challenge. They have multiple teleports available. They can send anyone off to a side lane, and they want to try and buy as much time. If they can just steal that Baron away or delay it, then they can get to a point where maybe they can win some fights. But it's going to be tricky. Like, Kobe, doesn't matter, even as many items as he has, against a level 17 Aurelia, there's only so much you're going to be able to do.
And you wonder if XL could just 2 or 3 man the Baron as well. Like, Jessica and Mystiques here could just hold mid. Mickey is strong enough, expecting Kadro go across. They've cleared out the vision, they're going to start it up. And Splyce are going to have to answer. It's Kobe who's answered the wave in the bottom lane. Splyce, no vision as of yet. Jessica's jumping forward, doing some damage to Noscare, and has to jump away. Splyce are giving it up. They say, we can't fight you today. Taking too much damage, and this will be XL's second Baron of the game. 29 minutes in, almost cresting the 30-minute mark. They have a 9,000 gold lead. And right now, going through their minds must be, well, looks like it's going to be a 3-game winning streak for us.
Beautifully done by XL, honestly. That was the kind of patience and clean play I wanted to see from XL. And the setup was good, the wave management was good, the vision was good. Very little to criticize from the side of XL. And Jeskla, utilizing Ezreal how I feel you need to utilize Ezreal. Sit in Fog of War, you have vision of the enemy, just keep landing poke. Norscaron, pretty much the main front line of Splyce, was chunked out. He couldn't even approach, which is what forced Splyce to disengage. So now XL, the last thing they got to do is end it.
Yep.
And there is 5 players and 2 inhibitors and a Nexus standing in their way, but they have all of the tools in order to end this game and keep their playoff hopes alive.
So let me just ask about exactly how they do that, because you have, earlier on we saw the 0-4-1, Mickey in a side lane, the rest of XL in mid lane. Inhibitor in the bottom lane is about to respawn. Do XL do that same 0-4-1 strategy here?
Yes, I think they do. I think you don't really want to play far away from each other. You already see that top is slowly pushing in your favor anyway, so they can look to rotate back up to there if they want to. However, their main priority is to just enable Mickey, keep him off on a side lane, utilize that Baron to threaten the inhibitor tower. And what Splyce will look to do is try and force a 5v5 before Mickey is in a position to actually threaten that inhibitor. Unfortunately for them, they've missed that very brief window. And this is where oh, maybe they haven't.
He's going to get hooked up, knocked into the wall with the stun, and Mystiques is dead. Couldn't pop the thick skin. Mickey jumping in, though, the Vanguard's edge. Will he go in? Will he find the Pop Blossom? That's huge! That connects on all of them! Tommy trying to escape, but the double comes in for Expect. Add one on for Mickey for good measure. Humanoid trying to get away, but Splyce have fallen apart in their own base. And XL will take the inhibitor and will look towards that Nexus.
I thought Splyce had found the window. I thought they finally found the kill onto Mystiques. Unfortunately, XL were ready to fight. And the flash in from Expect, the engage from Kadril. Before I called it overzealous, this time I call it knowing your limits. And XL played that beautifully. They now have the Nexus in their eyes, and they're looking to take the win.
It would be an almighty defense here from Humanoid and Norscaron. If they can do it, it would be incredible. But XL have the win in their eyes. Pop Blossom won't connect. Norscaron's already dead, and Humanoid knocked up. He's done for as well. Goes golden for a second, but the Nexus towers fall up beside him. And it's easy enough stuff here for XL as they continue what would be a miraculous playoff run as they defeat Splyce.
Elation on the faces of XL, and rightfully so. Their schedule only gets harder from here. They still have to go through Fnatic. They still have to go through G2. There are so many tough teams left to face, and getting a win against Splyce is so massive for them because it increases the likelihood of securing that playoff spot. Beautiful game from XL, and while there are definitely points of criticism, sure, you can find small holes in their gameplay. Overall, we saw Mickey popping off. We saw some fantastic teamwork. We saw excellent setups around the Baron, around the map. They played towards their win conditions beautifully, and I just feel like XL looked like a very good team today.
They definitely do have looked like one over the last week and a half. Splyce on the other side of the map will be a little bit dismayed. They didn't get that early game lead that has worked out so well for them post-Rift Rivals. They weren't able to contain XL in the mid game, and they never got to those scaling power points that they wanted out of their composition.
Yeah, I feel like Splyce could not find that early advantage, and a lot of it comes off the back of, again, the outplays coming out from the side of Mickey. And you can only give props to Mickey for that, and you know, we have to go back and watch the footage. What could have Splyce done more to try and find those early advantages? But I'm just so impressed with what XL have done. And like you talked about it, where the mid game is usually one of Splyce's biggest issues, it felt like that they didn't really have many options in the mid game. We didn't really see them try and force a lot of fights, look for a lot of picks. You know, they relied on the scaling aspect. They were hoping that XL would look to try and make a mistake, and they didn't. There were a couple of moments where you could say, like, sure, if XL had done this or this, then maybe Splyce could have punished, but they don't. XL find another win. They're now 3-game winning streak, and they're poised to make a miraculous run to playoffs.
It would be an incredible run. Usually about 9 wins is where we see the playoff cutoff. They would have to win every one of their games, and they still have G2, Fnatic, and Origin left to play.
But for context, right now I think that they're tied with Misfits.
They are tied with Misfits and with Rogue.
And they're 1 point behind Origin.
Yeah, and so 1 point behind Vitality.
It's getting very tense down there right now.
It's going to be incredible.
The fact that XL have won this game shakes up the standings a lot, and it only increases the weight of every single game. So you're going to want to keep tuning in for the rest of the day, see how the rest of the things play out. A lot of upsets happening in Europe right now.
Definitely are, but you know what isn't upsetting? Seeing Kia of the Kia player of the game votes for XL. You can go on over to @LoLesports on Twitter. Kadril, Mickey, and Jessica are your options. I do, as people go on and vote and log in, I want to talk a little bit about how much the loss loss for Splyce has actually opened up second place as well, because Fnatic, if they beat Schalke now, actually take sole possession of that second spot.
Yes, they certainly do. And so that top of the table is still very contentious. And it's funny because after Fnatic lost to Rogue, we sat there and we thought, well, okay, maybe they now lose that spot to the likes of Splyce. But our,
Schalke, who are on the
bottom,
rise.
our middle of the pack teams right now are challenging the top teams. And overall, I think Grabs in an interview said, like, the pressure is on for a lot of teams. And I think that's getting to some teams in how they're performing. But for the bottom teams who feel like they have nothing to lose, they're thriving. So the Excels, the Misfits of the world right now are looking good, and they're looking poised to call some upsets.
Oh, it's going to be incredible. The next 2 weeks of LEC are going to be a barnstormer. But for now, we're going to hand it back across towards our analyst desk.
What a bloody good game for XL. That is a game that they needed to win, to even give themselves a shot at getting to that magic number of 9, and they took Splyce out. And Papa, I kind of think we need to start off at the very beginning, which is the draft. Something that you said you praised XL for was the fact that they drafted a plan and they execute on their plan.
Yeah, that was what we viewed from last week. So we thought, okay, can they pay this forward to this week and actually put together a comp with a real identity? And it's a comp they've put together. And I think the Aurelia mid-last pick really kind of cemented it. That really does allow them to play topside once again and get a big lead in the soul lanes. And the way you want to play out a draft like this eventually is that Aurelia rocks up in a side lane. No one can really handle her. She can be such a oppressive 1v1 champion. And then the 4 of Tahm Kench, Ezreal can find some safe siege. And I think they enacted that very well.
They absolutely did, and especially for their early game too. You know, you mentioned the Aurelia in mid lane in that beautiful matchup up against the Sylas, as well as a Jarvan in the jungle, which is going to be very strong in any of these fights around the mid lane. Set them up to have these duels, these 2v2s, these 3v3s, where they're able to build up an advantage, and because it came from the mid lane, they were just able to use that pressure to dominate in the early game.
And I think what we saw here was specific individual players stepping up to the occasion for XL.
I mean, it's an individual outplay from Mickey. This is a player who I strongly contend a few years ago was one of the best mid laners in the world. He wasn't internationally renowned. He didn't get to travel and really ply his trade, and of course has had some failings since then. But this sort of a performance, his situational pop-off, he was always that 50-50 player. And if you call him a heads or tails player, we definitely landed on heads today.
Yeah, and it's nice to see as well, because I think his entrance into the LEC has been relatively quiet so far.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. We've been waiting for that pop-off play. We were thinking maybe this could be the difference maker for XL. We were expecting it much earlier in the split, but now it's coming in when it matters most. And if they can take wins off of teams like Splyce and continue to ride that, this team could be trying to get into playoffs.
I don't think we can praise XL enough here, but Splyce did have some awkward decision-making in the mid-game, and you specifically pointed out a TP to bot that maybe cost them a significant amount of gold.
Yeah, it's not a replay that we need to talk about. It's much more of just a play, and the reason why I was confident in predicting XL against the Grain here is that we had the TP play where Karma TP's bot lane, they contest the Mountain Drake, Tahm Kench is almost caught, has to flash away, but if you pick up what they got there, they got a Mountain Drake, a nice Drake if you're already winning. If you have priority, they don't. It's Sivir farming, it's a lot of farming lanes. And they lose 4 turret plates to make happen, 720 gold, all on the top side of the map. And that was a lot of the amount of gold that really was required to get Mickey going, to get Expect going. And then as we roll future replays, you can see that with those core items, if you're aggressive to the victor the spoils, and XL, bless their hearts, they were aggressive today.
And I think actually that played really nicely into the Baron fight that we saw around sort of like later stages of the game. This was all set up from the early game.
Yeah, and you know, it starts off here with XL going immediately towards it, you know, sacrificing some bot lane farm here, but Splyce are split up in this attack. Humanoids waiting on the side trying to get this flank off, whereas XL, because they're grouped up as that 5-member, they can just fully engage towards the heart of that Splyce roster and tear them apart.
And good teams need to know when you make these aggressive Baron starts, where you get the Baron down to 4,000, where it all gets a bit tricky, where someone might get nervous. This is the time to do it for XL, because Sivir is sitting there at 2.5 items. She has a BF sword, she has a Karma to buff her up, but she does not have Infinity Edge. The 600 CS win condition isn't online. You don't make that bait aggressive enough, everyone backs away, the game goes into one of those lull states we laugh about, and suddenly there's an Infinity Edge on, and you get rolled over in team fights. They didn't allow that to happen, and that is the reason that XL won the game.
And it's so important because we needed XL to attack Splyce in the mid game. We were looking at the had graphs earlier, you know, before this game when we were doing our pre-match, and we said this is the moment where Splice aren't very proactive, where you can attack them, and if you can get that early game lead and just chop them off, like, that's beautiful from XL.
XL looked decisive as well. It's something that we haven't seen too much from them in the previous weeks, where they took a play and they went for it. And what I really liked about XL today is that every single member looked like they could have been stepping up to the plate for a contender of player of the game. And speaking of which, we have our Kia player of the game. And it is no surprise that it is going to go to the man who played Irelia. It will be Mickey with 82% of the vote. I think deservedly so, but every single person on that XL team today looked very strong. I loved the roams from Mystiques. I think, obviously, we've always talked about Kadril and Expect, but even Yeskla on Ezreal looked fantastic too.
I mean, they all played well, but there was only one person that was 1v3ing, 1v4ing, and that was Mickey.
And at the end of the day, like, I love that we can share this on the LEC stage. The "Oh, Mickey, you so fine" moment that fits him so perfectly in the good games. This was the game where everyone takes a step back and says, okay, maybe there is a good mid laner in XL that we've just been overlooking for this season.
Well, from one team at the bottom of the standings who are looking to put on a win streak, time is running out for our team SK Gaming, who are in desperate need of a win. Find out if they can end their losing streak when we return.
Nico caught out just a little bit here. Expect chased down by Vizicachi. Xerxes on his way.
Gonna try and kill him.
Looking for the stun. Will land the root and he gets the kill. Edge of Ishtar finds its mark and he's going to try and dodge around here as Mystiques is in range. Looking for the Devour. Gets it out just in time. But he spits Mickey back out. Mickey gets a kill. Now Snowball's coming out. And XL have turned this one around. Xerxes trying to trade in. It's two! It's two for XL! Northgaren is caught out. Two-shot barrage coming out. Kadril trying to jump onto the backline. Expect goes in. Jessica takes down Northgaren on the backline though. Humanoid has caught out Jessica. The kill's coming in for XL as Mickey pops off. A double comes out and it's one more on top. XL clean up Splice around the barrel.
And this is where the... Oh, maybe they haven't.
This is going to get hooked up, knocked into the wall with the stun, and Mystiques is dead. Couldn't pop the thick skin. Mickey jumping in though, the Vanguard's edge. Will he go in? Will he find the Pop Blossom? That's huge! That connects on all of them! Kami trying to escape, but the double comes in for Expect. And it's easy enough stuff here for XL as they continue what would be a miraculous playoff run as they defeat Splice.
Ha ha ha!